Thank you for joining us today in our discussion of Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist, the graphic novel version. At the beginning and the foreword of the book and the beginning of the graphic novel, there's a story about Narcissus. So, like in a classic story, he falls into the water, like staring at himself and drowns, and then a flower grows there, and that's, the Narcissus flower. But in this version of it, there's in the graphic novel, in the story, there's an extended version of the story where these goddesses of the forest, which they're illustrated as kind of like forest nymphs in the book, where they come and the lake is turned to salt water, and they go to the lake and they ask the lake what's happening. The lake is weeping, and it's like, oh, I'm weeping about Narcissus, and they're like, oh, we understand because he was very beautiful. And the lake was like, what do you mean he was beautiful? It's like, isn't that why you're crying? Like, you should know he's beautiful. Like, he came to stare in your waters every day. You got to see him up close. She's like, oh, well, I'm crying because he died, but I'm crying because when he would look into the water, I could see my own beauty in his eyes, and now that he's gone, I can't see my own beauty. So what did you think about that story?
Well, in reflection to that, in present time. So that was the story, and it is constructed during the 8th century. That's what you mentioned earlier. Is it?
I was just joking about the 18th century thing. I was just trying to make it sound kind of boring. In the 18th century, philosophers speculated that.
I thought it was part of your spiel, but anyways.
No. I mean, for me, it kind of expands the story. It kind of tries to shift the focus of it. So normally we feel that, the original Narcissus story is a story about being narcissistic.
Exactly.
But this
loving oneself and focusing on oneself.
It can be interpreted in different ways. It can be interpreted that nature doesn't care. The lake doesn't care about his death. It cares, like, in the nature's world, it doesn't, in the world outside of the water, they view Narcissus as beautiful and as being important. And from the nature's perspective, it's like, I'm beautiful. What are you talking about? This kind of, everybody is the same. Like, everybody thinks the same things from inside out, but not outside in. I don't know.
So you were saying, in that context, that everybody's looking at themselves, that they are all important and they are all beautiful, no matter what.
Yeah, we're all the main characters of our own story.
Exactly.
And the lake's life, and the Narcissus and the people around him, their lives, it was about their beauty, his. And the lake's life, it was about its beauty. It's like,
exactly.
Which makes it kind of a tragic story. It ends in tragedy, but both parties are sad because of different reasons.
Exactly.
You see that in the real world, right?
Exactly, because we're so selfish. We think of ourselves always important, and what we only see is about us and not the general people.
Yeah, that's
it's about us all the time.
Yeah. I don't know,
But you know what I don't understand in this book is that he started with that, but he is going into a different direction later in the story.
So what direction is he going later in the story? Like the
Although,
author. You're
yes,
talking about the author. What direction is the author going later in the story?
He was talking about, although it is in a way narcissistic in nature because he's looking for his own legend, his own importance, his being, what he meant in this world or his importance as a legend, as what he's pointing out.
The idea of personal legends in this story. They talk about how personal legend is everybody's role that they play in the story. In the story of the world, though. Like, it's like I'm the main character of my story, but my story is part of another person's story, which is part of everyone's story. Like, in this one, Santiago, which is the name of the shepherd that starts traveling for his treasure, at one point when he gets to, he goes to Africa in search of the pyramids, he, for a couple of months to a year, he starts working at this crystal shop. and he brings in new ideas about making a display case and serving tea, which makes the business of the crystal shop boom, which gives the old man money to pursue his own dreams. Now, he said, the crystal shop owner says in the book that he's never going to go to Mecca, which is why he originally started the business to save up enough money to go there. But he said that he's seen poor people and rich people go. He wasn't able to, but now he can, pursue that dream. At one point he's sad. He was like, "You're doing all these things. It's showing me what I could have done, but what I failed to do. You're showing me all the things that I could have achieved my dreams. You're making it so easy. You're making me look bad. Basically, I've become so sheltered here, and lamented that I have never achieved my dreams. And you come in and you brought me closer, but that makes me feel that I'm lacking." But so in the story, Santiago's searching for his personal legend. The personal legend of the crystal shop owner is about, traveling to Mecca. So they're building on parts of each other's stories,
And eventually he did too with a student, with a scholar that he met during his journey going to his
personal legend, which is to find the alchemist and pretty much learn how to turn lead into gold.
Yes.
Right? That's what his goal was. And during that travel, they talked about how we all have to understand things in a way that we understand them. We're comprehending the same thing, but we comprehend it in different ways.
I liked it, both the characters, Santiago's character and the character of the scholar, because it talks about two different people. This person is very scholarly in his approach, while Santiago is very worldly in his approach.
And philosophical. At one point during their journey, because the scholar's always reading books and Santiago's always watching the caravan of people to try to learn the language of the universe, they switch at one point, and it's like, Santiago's like, "Okay, I'll try reading all these books that you have," and the alchemist's like, "I'll try learning by watching people," and then at one point they're like, "What are we doing?" I haven't learned anything more, because they're each trying to walk on someone else's path to understand. Everybody has a different path to the same end goal.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So just like us, we have the same end goal, in which we wanted to succeed, right? Yeah. But we have different ways on reaching that.
We do, and the same ways don't work for everybody.
Exactly. And then I cannot say to you that because you are street smart and I am not, you cannot tell me that I am wrong.
Right, and in the book you have so many characters whose lives are affected in this intertwining narrative. You have Santiago, his father, the daughter of the merchant in Andalusia, before he begins traveling, the daughter, or Fatima, from the Oasis during his journey. The alchemist himself, the scholar, the crystal shop owner, there are all these intertwining narratives. Everybody's working towards their same goal, and it's all intertwined.
And one point also that I've learned is that, to those who are romantic, that he says there that love can wait.
Love can wait.
You have
it's
to let
the
go
universal
of
language that the world understands. But we're not just talking about romantic love here, because at one point when Santiago and the alchemist are traveling towards the pyramids, they're waylaid by this general. And the alchemist makes his deal. It's like, if Santiago can turn himself into wind in 3 days, then they'll live. And if he can't, they'll both die. And Santiago's like, "What are you talking about? I have zero idea how to turn myself into the wind." When he's trying to learn from nature how to become wind, he's talking to the desert. And the desert asks him if something is love, because Santiago is explaining how everything is connected. He's saying that, the hawks hunt for food in the desert. The desert grows food for the hawks. To feed the hawks then feed humans, which then feed back into the desert. And he's saying that, and the desert asks Santiago, is that love, me creating, that cycle? That's also love. The intertwining nature of his lives, that's love too. It's a universal love.
It's a symbiosis relationship.
It is.
It is. So
The best kind of love.
exactly. But something that caught my attention really about that kind of love, you were talking about the worldview of love, but with a a relationship, man and woman relationship. When that lady, when Fatima told Santiago that, you have to pursue your dream because I am just here.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, when we were young, we thought that we just have to control that person and we have to be with that person all the time. And we don't want to let go because we feel like if we will let go, that person will run away from us. It will be gone. But no, real love is that someone who
If you love, if you
have to
let
let them
it
go.
and if it's real, then it comes back. It'll come back, or something like that. I can't remember that exact saying.
Exactly.
But yeah, she gives him the speech about how she's a woman of the desert, and men of the tribe are expected to go out and have their pilgrimage or search for their treasure, and that she'll be there to wait, and that that love isn't measured by proximity, that she'll wait for him, she wouldn't love him if he wasn't on that journey, she wouldn't have loved him if he wasn't on this journey.
Yes, exactly.
That's what, and we find that the things we give up, the things that we started for, like in the, in the story of the crystal shop owner, he opened that shop to save money to go to Mecca. And at some point, he gave up that dream. So he's given up the goal that he opened the shop for. It's like, what did we start out for? What is our personal legend? And, that's an overarching theme in the story. And that's something that really resonated with me because I feel like we do. Like, when we're young and we're born and we want to do all these fantastical things, and, we want to be Superman, and then we realize that we can't fly. Well, we can't fly by ourselves. We need some apparatus or something, some technology, as it stands now. And we start to kind of give up on our dreams. And, there is an interesting thing, which when he meets the king of Salem, and the king of Salem tells him, the book that you're reading says the same thing that all books say, and that's that, it tells a lie that we don't control our fates and that we start to give up on our dreams, and we do. There's this force that kind of brings us to reality. We take it as a negative force, but it's really meant to show us the way to go, because when you're trying to do something, and if you can't find a direct answer for how to do it, you discover a way to not do it, right? Who was it that said, oh, I didn't fail. I wasn't Einstein, I didn't fail, I discovered a way to not do it. And that's the kind of thing, instead of these failures, this force, kind of beating us down, we should use it to say, okay, let's try it from this angle. Don't give up your goal, but go at it from a different angle.
Exactly. Because there's some other ways to it. But you know what, one thing also, is what you've been saying, there are a lot of us that gives up with our dreams, because even Santiago almost gave up his dream of going to the pyramid. He almost did, because there's a lot of obstacles along the way.
And
remember
the story, he says, or, it said that a lot of people give up on their goals. Some people never make it there. And it's more about the pursuit of never giving up on that dream, and how the universe kind of whets our appetite with the beginner's to pursue our dream. So we should really never stop pursuing it, because it's less about achieving the dream and more about reaching for it, about never forgetting to work towards it. Where no matter whether that dream is to be a business owner or be super rich, or or to fly, to become Superman.
Although how impossible it is sometimes, always reaching our goal is always some kind of impossible, but there's always a way going to it. The only thing is perseverance. The only thing that I've learned from there is perseverance. And no matter how many times he was beaten on his way to his goal, yet he continued to pursue it.
And that's why he was able to reach it, in the end. Now there was a story here when
I wanted to tell you that too.
The story about the spoon of oil.
Yes.
the
There's a
person
story
goes
about
to like,
Paulo
you know, the wisest, you know, somebody's seeking the wisest man in the world and goes to his castle, and he asks he asks the wisest man in the world, what is the secret to happiness? And the wisest man tell you what, take the spoon, walk through the castle, don't drop any oil, come back to me in 2 hours, you know, after you've done walking through, and then we'll talk again. I'm, you know, really busy.
Yeah.
So the guy walks and he's like making sure he's focusing on the spoon,
on just one.
and you know, not dropping any oil, and he walks through everything, walks by everything,
Yes.
and comes back to the wise man and he says, okay, I've come back, I've walked through the castle with the oil, what's the secret of happiness? He's like, did you see this? Did you see any of the things around you? And I was like, no, I didn't. I was too busy focusing on the spoon, you know, the oil in the spoon. So he tells him, walk through again, pay attention to your surroundings this time, and come back. So he does that, but when he comes back this time, since he was distracted by the things around him, he dropped, you know, all the oil. And, you know, for me, what I took away from that is, you know, that you need to keep both things in mind. You need to focus on your goal, but don't be impatient, and don't forget to enjoy life as well. Just because you're focused on the goal, just because I'm focused on starting a company doesn't mean that I need to completely throw away all life. I need to shut myself off from life and never experience anything, never go out to have fun, never go to the movies, never, you know, go out to eat or anything like that, just because I'm 100%, because I'm focused on this goal. You can be focused on the goal while enjoying the life that you're living, because in this one, it takes him 2 rounds throughout the castle to realize this, but he still doesn't get it right. Presumably he would do it right on the 3rd time, but we only have 1 life. We don't have 3 lives. We don't have 3 lives to, let's work really hard at this one, and then let's, you know, slack off in this one, and then we'll get it right the 3rd time around. We just have 1 try.
Life's like that. Another thing, one of my takeaways is that sometimes you go life in full circle, and the treasure that we're looking for is just in our backyard.
If only we all had treasure in our backyard. I mean, you know, Santiago goes on this whole quest, and the treasure turns out to be back where he started from. But he needed to really, you know, go on that quest because his dream was to travel. And so, you know, achieving that dream really enriched his life in a non-material way, and the treasure enriched it in a material way. You know, the treasure was really kind of a reward, you know, for him persevering with his dream, achieving his personal legend. That's, you know, the reward kind of at the end of the journey, rather than its purpose, you know, because sometimes the journey is about the journey and not the destination. Well, that's all the time that we have. Thank you guys for listening. Stay tuned in the future for more updates, more book discussions, and have a great day.